How do we measure worship? Romans 12 tells us that true worship is a living sacrifice. It's a chance for us to give all of who we are and all of what we have to be a part of God's mission in the world.
At Tallowood, worship in action is one of the ways that we focus our attention on Christ's call to us to proclaim God's worth through service and sacrifice. For the next 2 months, worship in action will take us halfway around the world to Myanmar.
Myanmar, also known as Burma, is a country of 51 million people. Located in Southeast Asia, Myanmar is almost the size of Texas, but has more than twice the population. There are 137 distinct people groups speaking 107 languages.
Myanmar has one of the lowest per capita incomes in the world, with most Burmese people living on less than $5 per day. These problems have been exacerbated by the long stranglehold of a corrupt and inept military government.
About 80% of the country's inhabitants practice Theravada Buddhism, and only 9% of the population is Christian. Jesus has commanded us to love the lost and the least in our world the way that we would love Him. Here's some ways that we're going to be showing that love together to the people of Myanmar.
One of the most serious health concerns facing Southeast Asia is malaria. Each year, 700,000 people contract the disease and 2,500 die of it in Myanmar. This crisis is aggravated by 3 factors. First, the country's poverty puts even the most inexpensive medications out of the reach of most people. Burma is also home to some of the world's most drug-resistant strains of malaria. Finally, the military government has consistently resisted and restricted the actions of international aid organizations. However, recently, new effective treatments have been developed, and many cost less than $5 per person. Since local hospitals and foreign groups are unable to meet the demands of this epidemic, we want to provide local churches with the medical resources they need to treat this disease and to reach out to their communities. In most cases, $25 will pay for an entire family to receive treatment. Over the next 2 months, we want to pay for 100 families to receive life-saving malaria drugs.
Over the past 2 decades, the military government of Myanmar has dramatically increased its repression and exploitation of the Burmese people. They have canceled free and fair elections. They have routinely imprisoned pro-democracy advocates. They've persecuted ethnic and religious minorities, and they've wrecked the Burmese economy through wasteful government projects involving the forced labor of its own citizens. But recently, prominent world leaders have turned their attention to the tragedies that are occurring daily in Myanmar. And the Burmese people themselves have grown increasingly courageous as they have spoken out against injustice. When Jesus began his public ministry in Nazareth, he quoted the prophet Isaiah, saying that God had sent him to proclaim liberty to those in captivity and to set at liberty those who are being oppressed. Jesus cares about justice and about issues of human rights, and we too should show our concern for the people of Myanmar. The plight of the Burmese people has been brought to the UN Security Council by the United States government, but these efforts have been consistently blocked by the vetoes of Russia and China. And so we've drafted letters to the Chinese and Russian representatives at the UN, asking them to get behind the global effort to encourage freedom and social justice in Myanmar. Our goal is for 150 of us to sign these letters expressing our support for the Burmese people.
Almost 200 years ago, Adoniram and Ann Judson arrived in Burma, the first Baptist missionaries to the Burmese people. Today, there are over 1 million Baptist Christians in Myanmar, more than the total number of Baptists in all of Europe. The Burmese church is strong in numbers, but the opportunities for theological education and ministry training are few. But these pastors are eager to learn how to disciple their churches and take the gospel to the 52 entirely unreached people groups in Myanmar. In March, a team from Tallowood will be traveling to offer a ministry training conference for pastors there. However, rising fuel prices and the large size of the country have made the cost of transportation prohibitive. In fact, the combined cost for lodging, food, and transportation will be over 1 month's average salary for each pastor. $65 will pay for 1 day of training for one pastor. To put our worship in action, we want to sponsor at least 50 days of conference time for these pastors. And the more days we pay for, the more pastors will be able to experience the valuable days of fellowship and discipling. Whichever of these opportunities God's Spirit lays on your heart, you can begin putting your worship in action at the Reaction Center, located just outside our Interchange worship space. And as always, you can find more information and opportunities to pray and serve through our blog at worshipinaction.net.
There is hope for Burma, and the proof is right here in this room. Every second and fourth Sunday, Pastor Tong Loon leads a Burmese congregation that's growing by leaps and bounds. You see, the hope for Burma is the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we can be agents of God's love for the Burmese people by meeting their physical and spiritual needs and giving them a voice in their stand against injustice.
Join us as we pursue God's work in Burma. This is Worship in Action.